This is a big deal. Being a superintendent is not something that I take lightly. Hello, my name is Saba Maguire, and I am the brand new superintendent of the Dartmouth Public Schools, and I am excited to be here with you today. One of the things that I'm focused on in Dartmouth this year is what is your why? And so why? I'm excited to be able to do work with a group of committed educators that are going to benefit our students. Kids are kids, whether they're in Brockton or in Dartmouth, and there is definitely a need here and a real commitment to students and to student growth. And this is a place that I think that I can make that difference. Again, working through others, because it's not the work of the superintendent, it's the work of others who are out there every day in our schools, in our classrooms, supporting our students. I'm incredibly excited. July 1st was my official first day. I had the opportunity to transition into Dartmouth beforehand, though. The minute that really I was appointed as superintendent, I started to spend time down here and get to know folks, because I wanted to have that informal opportunity to get to know people before it became a formalized position. But the minute that I started July 1st on, I've felt so welcomed here in the community. And I'm excited really for that first day where we open the door to our students. 29-year career in the Brockton Public Schools. How fortunate am I that I was in Brockton for 29 years and had a variety of roles over those 29 years. Most important one being that of a teacher. And so starting off as a teacher, never in a million years would I have imagined that would have led me to the seat that I sit in right now. But I was fortunate in Brockton to have many opportunities to grow personally, professionally, from teacher to district level administrator, where I left the classroom to become a district level administrator, and that work involved supporting summer and after school programs, vacation programs, developing them and implementing them. I was in that position for 3 years and loved every minute of it, but I missed the kids. And so I thought I need to get back to a school, and luckily for me, the district was in the process of developing new positions, and the position that I was able to go back into Brockton into a school was the Associate Principal of Curriculum and Instruction. And that was a brand new position in Brockton, and I'm so excited that here in Dartmouth that position exists, because I think it's a critical position in a school. And after several years in that position, I became the principal of that school. That school is a school that I'm incredibly proud of. I keep this, it's an artifact of me as the principal of the Huntington School, and I love that it says Mass ELT Pioneer, 1 to 3 years, and that was because the school was a school that at the time the state had identified as an underperforming school, and we became an expanded learning time school. And that made a tremendous difference for the kids in that school. And what was so exciting is that we were able to offer enrichment programs that included all of the things that are important here in Dartmouth: drama, music, just sports programs, things that our kids at that time didn't necessarily have access to. That work, I lie the credit at the feet of the staff there. It was really a grassroots effort. No one told us exactly what to do. We told ourselves what needed to be done, and we were able to make a big difference in the lives of the students that we served. One of my proudest moments is when I was at a graduation a couple of years ago at Brockton High, and one of my former students was graduating, and she was going on to Brown University on a full scholarship. And she saw me, and I went over and saw her family and talked with them. And she said, "Mrs. Saba, you grew us. Our school, our elementary school grew us." And I love when kids can go back that far and see the connections and the meaningfulness of the work that we did. So from there, I ended up as the executive director of elementary education. And so I was able to work with 11 schools across the district. And really my goal was to bring us together as a professional learning community, and really connect the principals in a way that we became one school district rather than all separate elementary schools. And because I had the great opportunity to do all of the work that we did because of expanded learning time, I was able to bring some of that work to those schools because they were principals. Again, my colleagues across the city were invested in the same way that I was. I just happened to have additional opportunities because of my experience as an expanded learning time principal. So executive director for, I think, 4 years. It gets a little muddled in my mind sometimes. And then because of budget cuts, honestly, my position kind of morphed into a new position in Brockton called Chief Academic Officer, and that was pre-K to 12. And really what that was a compilation of a lot of different jobs. And again, great work. I was able to work with high school folks and middle school, so that really provided me additional opportunities to work at all levels of the district. In my last year, I became the Assistant Superintendent of Program Development, Expansion, and Partnerships. And that was most of my focus. My past year in Brockton was around expanding opportunities for pre-K students. As all of that was going on, I had an opportunity to apply to Boston College's doctoral program. And this was a cohort model that has gained great respect across the state, a model that is based in social justice, a work that I was always just organically attracted to. And so I applied for that program and was fortunate enough to be accepted. So that was a 3-year program, again, all grounded in social justice, equity, and so work that, again, I had been doing, but not necessarily had the framework to talk about it. And so I was able to complete that program. And after I finished my doctorate and at the same time started a new job in Brockton, I realized that I did in fact want to become a superintendent. So I didn't go into that program thinking that way, but I came out of that program having a belief that as a superintendent that I could in fact make a difference, and that there is a link between leadership and what happens in classrooms. And so that's what brought me here. That's what put on my pathway is that, yes, I do want to become a superintendent. I was attracted to the Dartmouth Public Schools because in many ways, the pride in this district mirrors the pride in the district that I come from. The pride in being from Dartmouth, I've seen it in so many different ways. It's come out, it's manifested itself through, I've been sitting with the folks that are new hires here in the district, and most of them are coming back to Dartmouth. Most of them, I look at the addresses and they're Dartmouth, and they may have started somewhere else, but they want to be back where they consider their home. Beyond that, going into the schools and talking with folks, it's clear that there's a real sense of, that bleeding green is real. It's definitely something that exists here in this community, and that attracted me to Dartmouth. So I did my homework as I was applying for different superintendencies, and this one just felt right to me. It felt right because I had spent time, again, looking at school committee meetings, reading some of the local press, seeing what the community was committed to, and I felt that drew me to this community in a way that made it authentic. And when I came here and spent the day as a potential superintendent, I can remember walking away with that real sense of belongingness, and it felt like a great fit. The reaction that I've gotten to being named superintendent here in Dartmouth has been one that has made me feel so welcomed from the district leadership, which we had a 2-day retreat. I think it was last week, and it was wonderful. We were able to make those deep connections. People were welcoming. I mean, it's like leaving a school district that you've been in for 29 years, coming to a new place. You can feel like almost an alien. Wow, look at the faces that I'm looking at. These people are not familiar to me. I'm not familiar to them. But I quickly became accustomed, and I felt incredibly welcomed, and I felt at home. So that sense of belongingness, which is so important to us in work that we're going to talk about here in Dartmouth this year around diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness. The belongingness is strong here. But other reactions I've had from my own family is, the excitement. My sisters, my brothers, they're incredibly excited for me. They're proud of me. My sons, they're like, wow, Mom, you are a superintendent. This is a big deal. Being a superintendent is not something that I take lightly. This is a position that I think is incredibly important to a school district, and I know the influence that it can have on the direction a school district takes and on the climate and culture. So that's something that I'm committed to supporting as I, again, embark in a whole new career. It's a new career for me, right? It's brand new. Being a superintendent is something that I mentioned earlier. I could never have imagined that it would be a role that I would step into. And yet here I am, and I'm incredibly excited about the work. And as far as Dartmouth is concerned, not only have the educators welcomed me, the community has as well. As far as changes are concerned, one thing that I think is important, and I've learned along the way, regardless of having been in one district, every role takes on new meaning and it's a new scope of the work. Change isn't something that I think you should enter into a position thinking about. I think first you have to take your time to learn about the community and to understand what its needs are. You have to understand the uniqueness about a community. You have to understand what the challenges are. You have to understand what the successes are. So for example, this district has done a lot of work around developing a portrait of a learner. And they spent all of last year with, it sounds like a diverse team of folks who came together and developed something that I think is once we introduce it to the community, once we're at that point that the community will embrace, that isn't something I would ever want to come in as a new leader and change, because the work is already happening. So it's not about coming in to make change. It's about coming in to look at the work and support what is going well, and then to help navigate the challenges with the folks around you. I have had so many people, luckily for me, in the course of my personal and professional life who have mentored me, and as I've stepped into this role, have given me solid advice. And probably the most important advice that I've gotten coming into this role is to listen and learn. And we just talked about whether or not I wanted to come in and make change. It's listening and learning, and you have to do that in an intentional way and be authentic about it, and so that people understand that you're not there to challenge or question what has been in place, but instead to work with folks to make sure that you have a deep enough understanding to work with people to move forward. Because something that I do believe in is if you're not moving forward, you're sliding backward. And so there should always be a goal. There should always be, how can we be better? And so that's some of the advice that I've gotten. It's funny because I just did watch Dr. Gifford's interview, and I felt very connected to a lot of what she shared in her retirement interview, where she talked about the next person coming in. And I think much of what she said was about listening and learning. And she used the words like collaboration and not being top down and looking for what's good in this community and being part of the community. And so her advice, even though it wasn't given directly to me, it is something that really resonated with me. And I felt as if listening to her that I was connected to a lot of what her belief system was as she was superintendent here in the Dartmouth schools. So she did, in fact, give me indirect advice. Collaboration is critical in any organization, regardless of whether it's education or business. I've certainly read enough books, but more importantly, I have enough work and life experience to know that there's nothing that you can do alone that is going to benefit the community or the organization in which you serve. And so the way that you build collaboration is first and foremost through relationships. And so the past few months in Dartmouth, that has been my goal. Relationships, relationships, relationships. I think it's the most important thing that any new leader can do, because once people feel as if they have a connection to you, you build trust. And then from trust, you can build collaborative working relationships that really are able to get you through some of the challenging times, because for the past few weeks I've been lucky. I had a 2-day retreat I mentioned with the leadership team, and it was a lot of really good, feel-good stuff, right? It's building relationships. How are we getting there? We did norming, we did some team building, all incredibly important. Once we open the doors of our schools, real life begins, right? And that's exciting because we want our students, that's the heart of our work, we want our students in schools. And when our students come back to school, 3,500 of them come back through our doors, we know that that's going to also present us certainly with joy and also with challenge. And so getting through those challenges is really going to rely back on the relationships that we built to enable us to be able to be collaborative in problem solving, and not only problem solving, but goal setting. The most challenging part of this new job is being a superintendent and getting used to hearing that this is the superintendent. And it's always, oh no, I'm June, but I am the superintendent. And I realize that with that comes the challenge of being a superintendent, and I'm learning a new job. And I'm excited about it, I already mentioned that. And at the same time, I recognize, as in any job I've ever had, and I think about this all the time. I remember when I was a student teacher, I sat in the back of the room and watched my cooperating teacher, Mary Hearn, 4th grade at the Whitman School. I remember sitting back, watching her teach a class of 32 4th graders, and I was thinking, well, that looks easy. Look at her, they're doing everything she says. This is wonderful. And then I had to take over for the 2 weeks. And then I had to pause and say, oh, this isn't easy. I have lots to learn here. When a student wasn't listening to me, I had to go back and talk to her and say, how did you get that student back on track? And so I learned so much from that experience, but it's the same thing when I left the classroom, right? So I became a district level leader. That looked easy from my classroom. And then I recognized that I had much more to learn. As an associate principal, the principalship, well, that looks easy. And you recognize that there are experiences that you have not yet had. You have been prepared for those experiences and well prepared. So I believe I've been well prepared for the experience of being a superintendent, and yet I also recognize that I still have things to learn. I'm most looking forward to being part of the community and being connected to what's going on here in Dartmouth. And even though I'm not a native Dartmouth person, I definitely understand that coming from Brockton. So I remember people saying, well, I'm not from Brockton, and I'd say, no, you are, you're an honorary Brocktonian. So that's what I'm hoping. I'm looking forward to being an honorary Dartmouthonian, however we say that. So that's exciting to me. The best part of the job is when the kids come back to school and we see the community in action, because that's really when the community comes alive, is when the schools are the heart of a community. And so being part of that is what I'm most looking forward to. Dartmouth community, I'm incredibly excited, humbled to be here as the superintendent of the Dartmouth schools. I'm looking forward to our journey together. Dartmouth students, I am so incredibly excited to meet you. You can count on me being in your classrooms. Please say hello. Tell me what you thought of my interview. I will be really interested in your perspectives. I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you, and certainly Dartmouth educators. I've been out in the schools over the past few months during your summer programs, and I'm excited by what I've seen in your summer classrooms, so I can only imagine what that's going to look like during the school year. So you can count on seeing me out there in the schools, and please say hello, and I'm excited about working with all of you.